And that generally means this is winding down time for ESPN's Trevor Matich joining us for Matich Mondays. It's a sad day, but he's with us on the Deseret First Credit Union Hotline. Trevor, welcome back to the show, man. Fight through the tears if you can.
Yeah, it's getting to the big pinnacle of college football, and I'll tell you what, couldn't be shaping up as a better matchup with more storylines. I love it.
We'll dive into that in a second, but walk us through your weekend, because you were in studio Friday. We saw you Friday night at the Memorial, and now you're in Tampa.
Well, more than that, on Saturday morning I was doing SportsCenter, or actually Raps. I was doing halftime of the FCS Championship game, so it's been a bit of a whirlwind, but it was so great to be able to get out to the LaVell Edwards Memorials on Friday. I had to come back to work on Saturday, but it was such a celebration of a life well lived, and it was unbelievable to see so many hundreds of former players come back. I mean, that will never happen again. There will never, unless Kalani Sitake coaches for 30 years, like LaVell did. It will never happen again where you've got that many BYU football players all in the same room. It was an astonishing thing.
What was the reunion like for you with all of your former teammates and the alumni in BYU football?
You know, some guys we hadn't seen each other for years, but it's like we've never been apart. And that's one of the great things about being on a team, and I think that's underappreciated. It's not just a matter of going out and playing games and winning games, and that's just so great. Being on a team drives you together with your teammates, with your brothers. And so to see guys walk in the room that I haven't seen for years, I mean, Adam Haysbert, Eddie Stinnett, Leon White came in. Leon White was the biggest hitter I've ever seen in college or pros, you know, and just to see guys that I haven't played, you know, Nick Eyre from the day, he was a couple years older than me, but just to see guys and catch up with them, and it's like we've never been apart. I mean, it's astonishing, and I just hate it. I hate it that we haven't been able to keep as together and as much in touch as we could have, because life just gets in the way. But, you know, it's a sad event to bring us together, but it was such an amazing thing to be together. And I will tell you this, the person I think that shined the brightest was Patty Edwards. Everybody wanted to give her condolences. Everybody wanted to just spend a moment with her and try to show their support. But for her, that means hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of people. And she was so gracious to everybody. When I got to see her for a couple of minutes, she looked at me and said, "Trevor, it's been too long. Last time I saw you was Idaho." This was a couple of years ago that she and LaVell were being honored in Idaho, and I was there to participate. And she remembered that in the midst of everything going on, and was gracious enough to talk about it. Patty Edwards, to me, is a bigger hero now than I've ever known her to be, and I've always known her to be a hero equal to LaVell.
I enjoyed the memorial a lot Friday, and I know the players and family for the funeral was Saturday, but there were some really notable people who made the trip, yourself included, Norm Chow, Andy Reid, and Jim McMahon was probably the guy that was had the biggest crowds around him. It was pretty impressive to see who all came back for this, Trevor.
Yeah, it really was. And the thing is, they all said the same thing, that no matter what the sacrifice, they would be there. You know, there were a couple of people that just flat out could not be there, and that's reasonable, but the ones that I talked to just hated it that they couldn't. And when you looked around the room and you saw some of those people and you knew some of the things that they were leaving, I mean, Andy Reid is coach of a playoff team, and he came. And I learned, and I didn't know this before, but I was told that Andy had spoken to LaVell every week for basically his entire adult life. And, you know, these are the kinds of things that come together in a moment like this, where you can put together the patchwork, the mosaic of individual tiles kind of come together into one big picture. And we all knew and we all know what a great influence LaVell has had on all of our lives. But when you put together individual details like that, and then you see people sacrifice what they sacrificed to be there to pay respects, it's just, once again, this is something that will probably never happen again. And what a fitting tribute to a life well lived.
An unforgettable experience for sure. ESPN's Trevor Matich with us on BYU Sports Nation. You talked about the new head coach, Kalani Sitake. He's through one season. He's going to be part of the ESPN News Megacast, one of a handful of coaches that will be breaking down the national championship and have a moderator and whatnot. What kind of experience will this be for Kalani Sitake, Trevor?
I think it'll be a great experience for Coach Sitake, and I think it'll be great for the nation to see him in that context as the equal of the other coaches that he'll be in that room with. The thing about Coach Sitake is that the more you get to know him, the more you see that he is at the same time, simple from a standpoint of easy to figure out, and on the other side, he's complex. He's I don't want to use the word simple. It's not the right word. But the thing is, he is, at his core, much like LaVell, in that he loves people. And part of the reason that I think he is so revered in the football community is that he didn't just, as he was coming up as an assistant coach, go to coaching camps and shake hands and pay lip service to being a part of the community. He invested in young coaches. He invested in young players, much like LaVell has. And so what you see in Kalani Sitake, from a standpoint of his heart and his humanity, there's a lot in common with LaVell Edwards. But the other thing you see is that he is also astonishingly competitive. I mean, he reverts back to his days as a player when he's on the field from a standpoint of competitiveness, and that fire burns bright. And those two things, I think, are things that you would see in LaVell, things that drew people to LaVell. Rather than LaVell telling people how they would be, you wanted to perform. You wanted to be better because it was important to you to earn LaVell's respect. And Kalani Sitake is the same kind of man in his heart. And I think that being on TV now in this broadcast on ESPN will give the nation a chance to see some of that.
Let's transition to the National Championship game tonight. Clemson versus Alabama. We asked you a week ago, but here we are on game day. Who do you have winning the game tonight, Trevor?
I've got Clemson in this game. And the reason is I think both defenses will make a lot of plays. I think both offenses will struggle at times, and they'll rip off some plays at times. But when it comes down to it, the quarterback position, you have to ask yourself, who do you trust more to make the big play and to avoid the big mistake? The true freshman, Jalen Hurts of Alabama, or Deshaun Watson of Clemson. And the way I put it is like this. I play guitar. John Jorgensen is a guitar player. Jalen Hurts plays quarterback. Deshaun Watson is a quarterback to every fiber of his being. Now, Jalen Hurts, I think, will get there, but he's not there yet. He's only a true freshman. And I think when it comes down to doing the things that quarterbacks do to make the plays that have to be made, I trust Watson to do it more than I trust Hurts at this stage in his career, and that to me is the edge in a Clemson victory.
So essentially what you're saying is Deshaun Watson is Slash and Jalen Hurts is you when it comes to playing the guitar?
Yeah, that's fair. Slash, yeah, that's fair. You know, you can go to Jimmy Page, you can go to a bunch of folks, Nuno Betancourt, Eddie Van Halen. We can make a list, but you're right about that. Although Slash does have better hair than either one of us.
Yeah, exactly.
You said you needed to watch the film to make a definitive answer when you initially gave us Clemson last week. What did you see on film that made you feel like, yep, Clemson's going to do it other than the quarterback, Trevor?
You know, I saw the interior offensive line of Alabama really struggle against Washington's defensive front. And Washington has NFL players on that defensive front. But they struggle still. And Alabama will face a defensive front and defensive interior tackles especially that Clemson will put out there that are even better and more explosive and more disruptive than Washington had. So I expect Clemson to own the line of scrimmage when it comes to the inside, guard, center guard, when Clemson is on defense. That means that if Clemson can set the edge on the outside so that the running game can't spill out into open space on the perimeter, and they can do that, they have the players to do it, Alabama's going to have all kinds of trouble moving the ball. And to me, that is a huge matchup that really shows up on film.
If Alabama wins, is it good for the sport? Because if Alabama dominates too much, it almost feels like it's turning into women's basketball where it's predictably UConn every year. It's predictably Alabama. What do you think?
No, I think it's great because the thing is, it will be Nick Saban's 6th national championship, which will bring him into Bear Bryant's status. And I think that's good for college football. Now, if he wins another 20, then okay, well, yeah. But the thing is, this year, if Saban does not win this, things get a lot more difficult going forward. His offense this year was pretty good, not great. Well, they're losing some key components off of that offense next year. Defensively, they're phenomenal. But some of the guys that are the best defensive players in the country right now for Alabama were top backups last year. And you could tell that these guys, as you watched them last year, would be great starters this year. Well, some of those guys are going off to the NFL, Jonathan Allen, Tim Williams, Ryan Anderson, people like that, Reuben Foster. So the question is, who are the backups that will step into that role next year? Well, a lot of those guys haven't really distinguished themselves this year. This Alabama defense isn't as deep as it was last year. And so the question is, will they be as dominant this next year on defense as they've been this year and in recent years? And I think no, and partly because the SEC will also provide better competition. More teams will be better in the SEC next year than they were this year. So when you talk about if it's bad for college football if Alabama wins this, I think no, it would be good for college football. But if they don't win it, there's no easy path for Saban to get back to the place where he can win that 6th national championship. The path is there, but it's a lot more complicated than it would be this year just finishing it out against Clemson.
ESPN's Trevor Matich joining us from Tampa. He'll watch the national championship tonight. You can listen to him on ESPN Radio, the pregame show, the halftime show, and the postgame show. Finally, Trevor, I just want to know, when are you playing at the Bluebird in Nashville as a guitar player?
Well, I've already done it, by the way.
Have you really?
I have played the Bluebird, yes. Monday night at the Bluebird, I think it still is, it certainly is up until recently, was open mic night for songwriters. So you don't need to be a good musician. You just have to have written a song. And the only talent that you need is to be able to write your name on a piece of paper and throw it into a basket. They pull your name out, you open, you sing your song. Yeah, and so I went to the Bluebird a few years ago, and I threw my name in the basket, and lo and behold, they called my name. And I was petrified when I first got there. And then I started hearing some of the other songs that people had written, and I'm thinking, I'm going to be fine compared to some of this stuff. And, because again, there's no audition for this. You just go up there and do it. So I was scared to death, and I asked them if I could wear my helmet, and they said no. But I have played guitar and sang an original song that I wrote at the Bluebird Cafe. I have yet to be discovered for that, but I'm sure that it's just caught in the bureaucracy.
Oh man,
awesome!
We've got to find video of this somewhere, something out there. Trevor, thanks so much for the time. Always a pleasure.
All right, thanks, y'all.